Hey, I know you've got goals for the new year. We've got resources to help you achieve them, but today is the deadline for renewing your membership. We can help you. Whether you're looking to build your network, advance your career through education and certification, get involved in standards, or stand out from your competition with awards and other accolades, your CEDIA membership has the tools to help you succeed in 2022. Please renew today at cedia.net/renew so you can continue to take advantage of these benefits. One other note, many CEDIA members are volunteers, and they get great reward from volunteering. Working with your peers is an amazing thing. The education that happens while you're volunteering, working on efforts such as education, certification, standards, you name it, gives back like you have no idea. So you can do that also, but you need to be a CEDIA member to do that. Please consider renewing your membership. And now on with the podcast.
I am CEDIA.
I am CEDIA.
I am CEDIA.
This is the CEDIA Podcast.
As you just mentioned, it's wonderful to consider my children going over to other people's houses that might not have a FIDO, that might not have the protection. I don't know where you've been. You went to a Starbucks and you got infected. You got somebody hacked you. And they now bring that back into your network where you have this protection. So how wonderful is it to have 24/7 all the time visual and also automated protection so that when a device either joins the network for the first time or is rejoining the network, it treats it the same as doing a new penetration to a test, a new vulnerability assessment every single time that happens.
Hello, and welcome to another CEDIA podcast. I'm Walt Zerbe, Senior Director of Technology and Standards with CEDIA and your host for the CEDIA podcast. And today we are going to be talking about guardDog. And guardDog is one of the latest additions to the CEDIA Propel program. But to help me do this, I have some great fine folks. The first person that I'm going to introduce is an insider, of course, and this is Ian Bryant, who is the Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships at CEDIA and the guy that also runs the Propel program. So Ian, how are you?
I'm doing well, Walt. Thanks for having me. It's always fun to be here, and I'm super excited about this announcement and the conversation we're going to have today.
I am too. And this is a product that personally interests me a whole bunch, being a nerd that I am and being the product category that this actually addresses. But to do this, we have some guests here. So we have Mr. Peter Bookman, who is the founder and the CEO of guardDog. Peter, how are you?
Good. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, and looking forward to spending time together.
Thank you very much for giving us the time today, and I look forward to asking you all kinds of questions and hearing your responses. But also to help us with this, we have Glenn Merlin Johnson. He is the CEO of Adaptive Design Group. And Glenn, you have a group, but you're also helping guardDog out. So why don't you just give us a little lowdown of what your group is and what it does, and your role in also helping guardDog.
Well, thank you, Walt and Ian. Appreciate this opportunity, and it's always fun to talk about new and exciting things in our world, right? So I've been practicing architectural lighting design in the residential luxury market for 35 plus years, across the United States and some overseas, and a very select arena. And what I've been doing is not artistic illumination, but also applying all the technology that goes along with that lighting, integrated dimming, full electronic systems, and electrical engineering. So we're like the lighting architects and engineers for the project.
Okay.
And it was really fun a year ago to meet Peter and team and talk about and learn about this guardDog cybersecurity product.
All right, this is great. So we have, we can learn directly about the product. And I know, Peter, I'm not saying that you're not technical, but it's also nice to have someone that does design for a living be on this too, to give us a different perspective. So before we get started, Ian, it'd be nice to have a little refresher on what the Propel program is.
Yeah, sure. So We launched the Propel program November of 2020 as a part of the CEDIA Strong campaign, and it was designed to be an affinity program to give special offers to CEDIA members. But we're as it's growing and maturing, we're finding that it's also becoming a program that is helping support new companies that are trying to break into the CI channel and into the market. And so we're bringing these emerging trends and innovative technology and special offers to the CEDIA members so that they can get exclusive access and get connected with great companies like guardDog. And at the same time, we're hoping and trying to get companies like guardDog into our channel and get them supported. It's meant to really bring together the CEDIA members with these new innovative companies, and everyone wins.
Okay. That's awesome. So look, we've thrown the name around enough. Let's get into it. Peter, what is guardDog?
Yeah, guardDog is taking a unique approach to cybersecurity. Traditionally, some cybersecurity things are consulting oriented, and because of that, reserved for only Fortune 1000 type companies who can afford people with this kind of expertise, who can basically offer countermeasures and also watch over things. So what we've done is provided a simple and eliminated the complexity of a lot of these bodies that you can just drop in a solution that looks over networks, your networks that all your cool smart devices and things are on, that anyone can deploy. Generally, it's helpful to have somebody who is in home automation or those kind of things who might know where and how. But once you do, it's automated. It uses artificial intelligence to watch over things, to give you kind of a feedback of your score of how you're doing with how vulnerable you might be at any given time. And then should anything happen, it also automatically responds to that, called incident response. So it just keeps you safe, just keeps all your devices safe, keeps your Internet of Things, your smart things. In fact, anything you're doing on a network protected by guardDog safe.
Okay, so this is a piece of hardware and also backed by a whole bunch of software, and probably does a lot of that interaction with the cloud. So just talk physically about what is the product? Where does it go? Where do you connect it? All that stuff.
Yeah, we advise it's a wireless based solution today. So it's meant to protect wireless networks with the wireless connected devices on it. It can do some wired protections. Mm-hmm. But what you do is you plug it into a router. It's out of the box, very quick, usually 5 to 10 minute install. You register it with that cloud service we call the protective cloud service, which is a web dashboard that gives you a bunch of this feedback and will add policies and notifications that let you know what's going on at any given time. And then you plug it in close to your router is what we suggest. Just plug it in with an Ethernet cable, just a cable that goes into the router. And then you're done basically after registering that. And from then on, it takes a little bit of training because it is artificial intelligence based to understand what's going on in the network. That means what devices do you have? And then from then on, immediately though, it begins protecting the network from outside perspective attackers, as well as any weird things that might go on the network, and offers those countermeasures. So it's about 10-minute install out of the box. You plug it in with that Ethernet cable, and that's about it. That's done. So
what's interesting to note is the traffic doesn't go through this. So this box isn't, you don't go from your modem to this box and then this box to your router. So it's not like a throughput manager for that stuff, right?
Yeah, it's an overlay device.
Okay.
And great question and add that, yeah, this is something that does not sit in line. You don't need to connect it in. It's not watching everything per se. It doesn't care where anything's going. It doesn't do any of that kind of stuff. It's specifically targeting and watching on the network for exploits on the network, attempting to do things that will impact the network itself or the devices that are vulnerable. So in that way, it's an overlay. It's watching over the network as a member of the network, almost, not as the network itself. And then the countermeasures are done in a similar way, out of band, not from the router or anything like that, but device to device, keeping the network itself still safe. And we've found because of this that the performance of the network works really, really well. So in the deployments we have done, we have heard repeatedly that some of the cool consequences, if you will, the good consequences of deploying this is that the network's more reliable, if you will, because a lot of times things happen on a network that are just kind of weird.
Yeah.
And when you have something looking that and treats them as incidents and then takes care of those for you, then the network itself, all the devices, all the network works better.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring that up. I wanted to make a distinction that I know some products I've messed with in the past can be a bottleneck, and so this one doesn't behave in that manner. So that's unique and that's pretty different. And Ian, you wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking with the guardDog group, I learned a lot about some of the new hacking techniques that are being used by criminals, specifically on a lot of the IoT devices and connected devices. And so, like, Glenn or Peter, can you talk about what some of these new techniques are and why it's so important that it's not just you're protecting through your internet service provider, but you're protecting edge-based devices and all of these connected devices in the home?
If I can speak to that,
Yeah,
Peter. So it's really interesting. The conversation really is guardDog provides a shield over the network, as Peter suggested. We're not inside the network collecting data and things. We're not an endpoint solution. guardDog is a network overlay, as Peter mentioned. And so if you think about it, when a hacker is trying to get into a network, they're pinging that network with multiple packets. And that's what guardDog and the FIDO device, which is the plug-in device that Peter was talking about, that device is feeling that sensitivity of these multiple packets and saying, hey, I don't like the way that feels. This is not good. That's not the way normally somebody would come into my network, right?
right.
And so it will stop, and it will not only stop at a blink of an eye, that person that is trying to come in or that hack, but it'll also register that into the cloud and then spit that information, that bad IP address, out to all the FIDOs in the entire world that are connected. So that's where that AI and that strength is. And so that individual is blocked and locked and not able to get in. And right now, the home is the wild, wild west, right? Since 2020, we had to leave our secure enterprise network environments with our full IT departments and move home. So we have CEOs, CTOs, CFOs, and even heads of IT departments working out of the house. And the home network had no visibility. So Peter's product, guardDog product, gives full visibility via a dashboard of everything that is connected, whether it's wired or IoT. And so you see full visibility, and you see the vulnerabilities that are on your network, particularly open ports and things like that on the wired side. And heck, say the majority of people don't even know how to password protect their routers, right?
Right. No, I do. It's admin password.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the same with every IoT device, up to 40 devices going into a home today that are app-based, So the hackers are absolutely loving this home arena. Yes, Ian.
It also protects against penetration, like wireless penetration testing, right? Which is something that is not common. That there's not a lot of products out there that can protect against that.
Yeah, that I know of. That's where we're back to the consulting or stuff. That Glenn said it great add. That's what I wanted to add in, is that I love Glenn's comparison to the Wild Wild West, except as you're just describing, Ian, it's really like the Wild Wild West if only the bad guys had guns and there was no sheriff. because the reality is to go get an attack toolkit, something used to exploit networks. There, you can just buy them. You don't have to know anything about anything. You can just go get one. You know, a very common one is $100 off the shelf, and you're a hacker. Yay! But to be the protector, on the other hand, against that, the best you're going to see is people who use those attack toolkits and are watching their own networks and what have you. That's the best you got. But who wants to do that, by the way? And I want to sleep at night. Thank you very much. So what this really does, as Glenn just described, is really important and really cool because, yeah, it's so easy. This evens the playing field and we believe slants it towards the protection because it's automated, because it basically takes those same attacking toolkits where anyone can be a hacker. If you Google Wi-Fi attack kit or, hack Wi-Fi or anything, you'll find pages. But on the other hand, when you look for protection, you'll find stuff at best around like password protection and those kind of things, which is really not enough in a world where universal plug and play is very common for lighting systems or what have you, to talk to each other, to make it simple to connect, and to be not necessarily good citizens of the network themselves, because in the end, they're just devices. Yeah. Smart devices, absolutely. So adding the sheriff, adding the FIDO that keeps watch, that sniffs out those, would-be bad guys and plays sheriff, but uses AI to do it so that you don't have to do anything except for receive the notice and enjoy the protection of the wild, wild west. Now that becomes a bit more tamed because the sheriff has a gun, but not only that, he's quick on the draw because he's not human and is able to really thwart these exploits very, very effectively.
And we're doing penetration tests ongoing.
Yeah.
It's not quarterly, it's ongoing.
So Glenn, it's interesting. So you kind of hang your hat on lighting design.
Yes.
But yet you're really into a cybersecurity protection product. So correlate all those stuff to me, because I think that's interesting.
Well, since, I've been involved, as I said, 35 plus years. So I was there at the very beginning of integrated dimming control, right? Yeah. The systems that were out there doing artistic and technical lighting design. You have to do the lighting design first, then you apply the technology. So when integrated dimming control was the very first processor that ever went into a house. And now look at us, 40 plus 50 processors in a home. So I felt, and I still feel responsible, along with the CEDIA integration partners that we're working with for, the whole network side and things, because we want a CEDIA member coming in on our projects for
thank you for that.
All that. But both of us, we're the tech team, right?
Yeah.
So you have an architect and an interior designer that really don't know much about electronics or even lighting today, or LED and dimmable drivers and, CRI and Kelvin temperature, let alone integrated dimming control. They don't know it. So the modern tech team added to that architect and interior designer is lighting design, lighting control, electrical engineering, and then the CEDIA member, the integrator. So us together are responsible for bringing all these devices into the home and all this technology into the home that is absolutely vulnerable and open. Everybody's agreed. My own office here, I've deployed a guardDog FIDO device here and have my dashboard and can see everything. But I also have an alarm system, right? I have alarm.com here. And that alarm.com goes through an integrator, and it's a subscription-based service. And everybody wants home protection, but you're missing out the most important piece of protection, and that is your identity. Right. And that's something that you can never change your social security number ever. And so somebody gets in and takes that personal identity. Who cares about a piece of art or jewelry or a flat screen TV that somebody can walk out with? With the guardDog product now is protecting that other half of all of your personal property and protecting that potential leak through the VPN into the corporate enterprise,
Yeah.
which is the goal, right, of that hacker.
It's interesting. As you were talking, I made an assimilation of UL safety and electricity, and then the guardDog would be the UL protection for, so to speak, for the connectivity and the privacy and the cybersecurity. So, because you have to be very concerned about safety with lighting and controls and all those things. So it's kind of an interesting correlation. Ian, let's get into the business side of this. You want to start off with some questions of what that looks like, how guardDog works, and what the Propel program is doing with this?
Yeah, and I think it's really, as Glenn was talking about, the importance of the integrator and the home technology in general, what opportunities there are for integrators to implement guardDog solutions in their clients' homes, and how impactful that can be, and then also what that business model looks like and what offerings. So Glenn or Peter, I think it'd be great, this opportunity to talk about how an integrator can utilize this for a recurring revenue model, how they can protect their homeowners without the homeowners not even having to worry about it, and they'll manage their customers' networks and the security through their own kind of platform.
We're on the advisory side to guardDog. I've actually brought them into the CEDIA world, and we worked with Ian for the last 9 months, and this has been fun, and this is really important information, that in this 9-month period, the FIDO device that you can see in this little box, the integrator can
okay,
have
everybody,
30,
it's a pretty blue box, and it says guardDog on the top, and then it has like an iPhone with the app on it.
Yeah, that's not an iPhone, that's the FIDO device.
Oh, that's the FIDO device. Okay.
Yes, but the reason I bring that up is an integrator could have 30, 40 of those in their trucks and deploy them all day long in 5 minutes. But the most important thing is how we've approached this with guardDog in the CEDIA and Propel is this is another income stream, because the integrator, first of all, there's not a client that is not going to want this protection, this level. Every client that understands it will want it. And it is a subscription-based service. So we and all that will be on the Propel information for the pricing and all of that, but it's very reasonable. You can do full reporting to your clients. You can charge for the deployment of the device, for the truck roll. You can charge for the servicing, meaning the review and the reports to the client. So, and what also it does, because of what I said earlier, you're getting a full look now at all your connected devices, that the integrator can go in and they can go back to their very first client, 20 years ago, and deploy this and also see that, oh my goodness, that router is outdated, or that smart TV that you put in 6 years ago, that really should be upgraded. Let's do this password protection. If we need to close ports on routers.
And in many ways, this changes the game, kind of like antivirus and things like that, where because it makes the tool so accessible, the integrator becomes somewhat of a cybersecurity expert themselves, from the perspective of being able to offer, as Glenn is talking about, these services that were previously reserved for only those who had the expertise, and even they couldn't do it in this type of a marketplace. So being able to understand and have a dashboard and feedback that says, that offers a scorecard even of when you add a device or when things didn't get updated or whatever else, of you're more vulnerable than you were before. There's an opportunity to plug in some of these other services and also really know what's going on your customers' networks. And then, be able to work with others like the experts, so-called experts. Well, they are experts who really have to have a lot of the same information and would do the same thing. In the cybersecurity industry itself, it's very common to have a lot of hats involved because there's an average in the enterprise, those enterprise networks we were talking about earlier that you left behind, there's around 36 total different tools on average just to manage a network and devices on it. And so being able to say, as Glenn described, in this home automation environment and world, in the smart device world, being able to have a scorecard that says it went up or down, and then being able to know who to call is in and of itself a wonderful ecosystem being created. And we're so excited to join with you guys in doing that.
Yeah, it's interesting. The thought just occurred to me is the wetware side of it. When after the network's deployed, the job's done, then the homeowner decides to get something and connect it to their Wi-Fi, or kids come over with their phones, their computers, their gaming stations, and connect it to the Wi-Fi. And then that's where a product like this, especially when new things are introduced, can help to eliminate problems that they had no idea could potentially be, threats to the system.
Isn't that wonderful that it's even the enterprise? Glenn alluded to it earlier. I love that you said that, Glenn. In the enterprise, it's normally a governance-oriented thing to have a penetration test, as Ian mentioned earlier, done on a regular basis. This is typically done quarterly for like public companies and things like this. And as you just mentioned, it's wonderful to consider my children going over to other people's houses that might not have a FIDO, that might not have the protection, and very much like a disease, if you will. I don't know where you've been. Yep. You went to a Starbucks and you got infected. Somebody hacked you, and they now bring that back into your network where you have this protection. So how wonderful is it to have 24/7 all the time visual and also automated protection, so that when a device either joins the network for the first time or is rejoining the network, it treats it the same as doing a new penetration to it, a test, a new vulnerability assessment every single time that happens.
Yeah, I love that. I really do. It's something that worries me. I mean, I'm sure most homeowners don't think about that, but whenever my kids have kids over, I'm like, you can't disconnect that here. Sorry.
Denied.
Or I might have a guest network that just goes straight to the internet and is, firewalled to something else. But what am I missing here?
If I can just jump in, as Peter mentioned, the score, the from 1 to 10 being worst, you can see that on your dashboard, but also you see all the other vulnerabilities that gives an IT pro a shortcut to the issues, right? Instead of guessing, because ordinarily you wouldn't see any of this in the home arena. Yes, you'd see that in the corporate arena, and you've got multi-million-dollar IT departments, trying to manage all this. But with what Peter's created here with guardDog, you see it all, and that gives you an instant shortcut to go in and take care of these issues. And the last thing we ever want to see is a breach, or ransomware being, what is it, just published that a minimum ransomware is like 2.4 million or something like that. I mean, I couldn't survive that here in my adaptive design group office if I had to come up with 2.4 million in Bitcoin in 24 hours. I mean, what do you do?
Yeah. Ian, talk about the mechanics a little bit of like, how does someone get involved?
Oh, it's super easy. We definitely made that easy for CEDIA members, integrators to get involved. Is just going to cedia.net/propel, and then scrolling down. When you find the guardDog offer, you can activate the offer. An email goes straight to their system with the integrator's information, and guardDog will reach right back out and get everyone set up. They'll send over all the information. We've made it as easy as possible to get set up. And then I did want to touch on, guardDog is offering training programs for the integrators that do sign up, and quite a few really great benefits.
Awesome. Peter, Glenn, anything else you want to add to that?
Excited to work with everybody on this. This is just something that revolutionized our safety. I love Glenn's comparison to an alarm system and what you added as well. In this world we live in, the reality is we are far more likely to be exploited digitally than physically at this point. It's easier, it's simpler, especially with some of our home automation being the environment protection itself. When that happens, we rely on some of these really cool technologies like surveillance systems that are smart and what have you. And yet the irony of that is there's a Latin phrase I really like, going back to my cybersecurity roots, quis custodia ipsa custodian, namely, who guards the guardian? If I'm protecting the physical premise with any kind of digital system, and the digital system itself doesn't have something to protect it, then the surveillance system is as useful to the hackers as it is to you. I can survey your home without you even knowing it. And so being able to add both and being able to have this complete solution and being able to have this wonderful connection with the CEDIA and being able to help everyone with the solution we're offering to be safer, to have cyber hygiene, even if you don't know what that means, to add the sheriff, if you will, and his guard dog, Fido, to the wild, wild west is really humbling and exciting. And we're just really grateful to be here. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you for being on. And you did bring up a question in my mind when you started touching a little bit on your background. Like, how did you get the idea for guardDog, and what kind of background do you have on this? Yeah. Or do you have to kill me if you answer that question?
Oh, no, not at all. I'm entrepreneurial at the end of the day. And, while in my college years, one of my 2 college majors was cybersecurity. And back then that really was mostly cryptography type stuff. Not to show my age too much, but the bald head kind of gives some of that away, I think. It's not just from stress, and it's the entrepreneur life, I think. But so I've had this background for a long time, but really been entrepreneurial focused. My first company was a cybersecurity company. We did SSL VPNs that are now prevalent everywhere. And since then, I've done a number of other technology deals, most of which were not really cybersecurity focused. But not too long ago, I will say, years though, we ran into exactly the dialogue we're talking about. And I have a birthday lunch with a friend who sadly was on an open Wi-Fi network. I say open, it was a public Wi-Fi network, working while on vacation, which,
who does that?
Shame on you for working on vacation and offering your services while you're in this. And bottom line is, sadly, they got hacked exactly as Len was describing. They got ransomware. It really impacted their business. And so we're sitting there as he's tearful saying, I think my brand is ruined, all this kind of stuff. I'll leave out the date, but it was basically, it's the year that it is. We still don't have protection. And the idea then was born of, we need this counter measure to those automated toolkits. The toolkits are automated. The ability to become a hacker explains why there's so many and explains why you never know. And we just needed this other side. So I threw my entrepreneur tool, hat back in the ring, with the team, said, let's go solve for this. Let's make it so that there is at least this other counterweight and have an answer to the toolkits, the hacking toolkits and the hackers themselves, where there to date really isn't a penalty for being a hacker. That's the worst part of it.
It is.
And let's add it to say, well, then there's no penalty for protecting either, but let's make it at least as good. And we're very proud of the way we're heading, because we think it gives the protection, because it is the house, if you will, to borrow like a bedding concept of, because it's our house, because it's our environment, we should and will continue to have an unfair advantage when your Fido, much like a dog for you dog lovers out there, can smell and knows what normal is, knows what is there. So like you mentioned earlier about like a kid's device or my own device, I may be the one who went to a Starbucks and joined the network. Shame on me. I use the Wi-Fi network at Starbucks where I don't know who's on there.
Yep.
And then I bring it home and the Fido can smell the difference. And that's the notion, the idea, and where that came from, and the genesis of why this is so important and really cool and really keeps everybody safe, because it not only evens the playing field, but it really turns all of us into enough of a cybersecurity expert to join the conversation, to be able to recognize who's got the guns and what they do, so that we can keep watch with that score, and also have that the fastest gun in the West that's automated. To give one other kind of cool statistic out there, the average exploit on a network to hack somebody with a toolkit is relatively fast, about 2.5 seconds.
Wow.
So it's really cool when you have this fastest gun that can do the countermeasures in less than a second. In fact, less than a half of a second. And being able to say, so the math is really kind of simple, easy, and fun, that if I can respond faster than, it's very much the Wild West. I love that metaphor, Glenn. We're going to use that a lot. It's great. I like it like the movie. I hope some of you guys know Blazing Saddles.
Absolutely.
Shoot the gun out of the bad guy's hand, being able to say, we're not going to hurt you, but we are going to stop you from being effective. We are going to make it so that it takes you 2.5 seconds. It takes us a half a second.
Right.
And actually less than that. So it is like having the best sheriff you can imagine, who really is like Blazing Saddles, Gene Wilder, able to shoot the guns out of their hands before they can actually do anything with it.
Yeah, I love those scenes. He doesn't even move. And then,
yeah, exactly.
It's so great.
So good.
What's neat, Walt, too, is I ask Peter this all the time. I've been in a little over a year and working with Peter and staff. But how did Peter know when he was developing this 6 years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, that everyone was going to be home in 2020? And we haven't quite gone back, right? So how did Peter know that the timing is just so amazing for this protection and filling this gap that is currently not even being explored? And Peter created it.
The other thing that worries me or is always on my mind is they're working from home. And so they're also bringing potential threat to the companies that they're connected to and working to. So it's really good timing for this. So
it really is. In the connected network world, we are all connected.
Yep.
And that's it's a great parallel to jump to the pandemic itself. What you're alluding to is the scariest part. It's an explanation for why the news is riddled with cybersecurity, because we really are the product of our weakest link, whatever that is, because no matter what that is, we talked about kids, talking about VPNs and corporate networks and all of these things. We live in a connected world where one network attaches to another, which attaches to another, like links of a chain that are all connected. And so when anything gets exploited, it makes the rest exploitable. To give you like a quick tutorial on like the art of hacking, rare is the time that one exploit or one hack is how it's done. You normally need a foothold. And then what you do is with that foothold, you then spread. So using the network, you spread via the network, and you use common exploits to do it. Because when we look at it, as Glenn mentioned earlier, in the home automation world, when there's, let's say, 40 smart devices out there, well, it only takes one to go get the other 5 that are vulnerable. And now I have this swarm of a network attack going on the network that is really difficult, if not impossible, to get rid of. Not counting if that's now connected to another network,
right?
Where it will absolutely do that. So it's worth a lot to say, well, right now we know so little about what's going on in the home anyway, because there's no other solution there, as we mentioned. So being able to close that and turn the home not only into not the weakest link, but perhaps the strongest one, because in this link, you have not the quarterly audits. And to just touch on that briefly, where we often run into these audits and these governance where the reporting looks like this. They go in and they do a penetration test on one of these secure networks once every quarter, but to patch, to fix the problems that are found, because we're talking about thousands of devices in that scenario, right? Takes about 6 months. So you're always 6 months behind. And now add what we're talking about here, having that quick draw gunman and FIDO with it, and then having the ability to consistently see all the time, turns that weakest link. And with great partners like we have here that we're talking about today, it really makes it really the strongest link. It makes the work from home initiative, the distributed enterprise, along with small and mid, not just approachable, but really interestingly more safe than the large counterparts that are really difficult to actually manage those thousands of devices and the network itself.
Got it. Well, we're really excited to have you guys on board with the Propel program. So welcome to the Propel program, and thanks for explaining the product to us and the need for it. So once again, Peter, CEO of guardDog, thank you very much for spending time with us today.
Thank you very much.
Glenn Merlin Johnson, the CEO of Adaptive Design Group, thank you very much for your insights and for spending time with us today as well.
Thank you, Walt and Ian. We're very, very excited about this.
Well, thank you. And Ian, thanks a lot for your good questions and insights as well today.
Welcome, Walt. It's always a pleasure. And don't forget, if you're interested, just get to cedia.net/propel and check it out.
All right. That sounds like a plan. So we'll be back next week for another podcast. Hope you enjoyed this one. And as always, please keep an open mind.
For more information on CEDIA, visit cedia.net.